The following live broadcast is rated ESVPG because who knows what the heck we're going to say. Good evening, everybody. On tonight's show, we're going to be talking about the difficulties of trying to manage a budget. How hard it is sometimes when you're limited on money, but you still have to continue to pay for everything to keep your family happy, support happy. How do you get through it? It seems like it's never going to end. And does it? How do you get through it? We're going to find out all about that tonight with our panel on tonight's show. So you guys ready?
Yeah. Yep.
All right, well, let's discuss this stuff. Good evening, everybody. My name's Keith Liffin here for Ear, Shoulder, Voice. You know, some of the hardest things people can do, and something that doesn't seem to end for some of their lifetimes, is figure out how to balance their bills, their family, the needs of their kids, on sometimes minimum paying jobs and jobs that just don't make enough money to do it. Somehow, some way they get through it. A lot of us had parents that were very poor, but they made sure we had everything that we could possibly want. How did they do that? Why do we feel so lost when it happens to us? Well, we're going to discuss that with our panel today because today's topic is living week to week, the financial struggle. Especially in today's times with the pandemic and everything, a lot of people are making way less money than they ever did before and still have to get through. Life still goes on whether our funds do or not. So we're going to discuss exactly how we can achieve that together as a group. But don't forget, while you're here, we want you to like, share, subscribe, follow to Ear Shoulder Voice on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram. We're on all those for you. Don't forget, you can also call into the show simply by going to earshouldervoice.com/join. When you do that, you can choose to turn your camera off and join by audio only, or join with camera as well. We're always here. And don't forget to live chat during the show because Ear Shoulder Voice is nothing without you guys. And, of course, it's nothing without our panel. So let's bring them in. Our first panelist tonight, God, I just love saying her name because she's finally back, and we went so long without saying it, and we love her so much. Please welcome back Linny.
I'm back.
You're back, and we're so happy. I'm so happy. You are definitely one of the backbones of this whole thing right here. So,
Yeah.
Linny, the topic is financial struggle, and you had mentioned to me before that you don't feel a lot of financial struggle. Is that correct?
Well, I've my whole life I've worked myself, so I've always taken care of myself, and I've been able to have a good enough job to save and stuff like that, and, until I got married and then divorced and then two autistic children later. And then there were some financial struggles at that point, for myself personally. Now, growing up, my family didn't have a pot to piss in. We lived in probably the ugliest house on the street, and I still, to this day, I struggle with Christmas and holidays and stuff like that. And I think it's because we didn't have a whole lot of money, but for some reason, my mom always overdid it. She always made sure that we had gifts and stuff like that. So you never knew that what we didn't have, as a kid. But which I appreciate that. But at the same time, I always felt so guilty. Because I would hear, her talking and to my dad or arguing about bills or money and stuff like that. Because my mom didn't work at the time because all she did was take care of the kids when we were young. And of course, my sister was in a car accident when she was very young. So my mom had a lot on her plate and my dad had to support us all. So I knew the financial difficulties just because I would snoop and listen as a kid. And then,
but if
of
it
course,
weren't for that, you probably wouldn't have noticed because they probably did everything they could to make sure that you had
right,
what you needed.
Right. But I think what it did for me is it made me know inside that the only one that can take care of me is me. So I never wanted to have to depend on anybody financially. So I wanted to make my own money. I wanted to make sure that I could support myself. No one had to do that for me. And I think that's kind of what had happened.
It's that's what you do when you grow up in a poor family, and that's kind of what I did growing up. I didn't want to ever have to rely on somebody else. Sadly, there have been times that I did, but nothing I ever wanted to do. All right, let's bring our next panelist in. Please welcome back to the show, Bill.
Hi,
Ooh,
Bill.
hold on, Bill.
Hello. How's everything?
Everything is good, Bill. Everything is absolutely fantastic. How you doing?
Oh, I'm hanging in there, taking it one day at a time.
How many
Enjoying
how many
my
more
weather
could you take at a time?
as many as I can get.
I agree with that. We're always looking for that extra day, aren't we?
Yeah,
So,
I
Bill,
just.
today's topic, of course, is about financial struggle and dealing with, hard times with money. Have you ever had to go through those hard times in your life?
Oh yes, because life sometimes is unpredictable. I was subject to layoffs, firings, mishaps, that you don't see coming around the corner, plant closures and stuff like that. So, or, the less money I made it difficult, and that unemployment doesn't cover everything. So,
No.
it was like a roller coaster in the beginning for me. All right. Very,
Yeah.
very shaky, and being married and having a child on the way didn't make it any easier, you know.
It's the
Yeah.
growing family that makes it the most difficult half the time and trying to get everything in and trying to make money to support them in every way. And it's really hard with the jobs. And something you had mentioned really quick, life happens and life comes up. And often I find it's harder when you have more money on a regular basis. You tend to
Have more
go,
stuff.
yeah, but you also get in the financial trouble easier because you rely on that. Now, we'll talk about that more in a bit because that's one thing I definitely did. But right now, we're going to bring our next panelist in. Please welcome back Jan.
Hi,
Jan,
Jan.
Hello.
glad to, Wayne's here. Wayne says, "Hi, my name is Wayne, and I'm a broke bitch. Howdy, y'all." Wayne, glad to have you on here, broke bitch. I think we've all been broke bitches at some point. Currently, I'm even a broke bitch, so I totally understand you, Wayne. I feel you. Anybody out there, feel free in the chat. Tell us, what was it like growing up? Did you grow up in a poor household or not? And what was it like? We'd love to hear from you. So, Jan, how you doing tonight?
Doing good.
That's good. So, obviously, you've caught the topic. I don't have to say it again, but I'm going to. It's about financial struggles. So, how does that relate to you? Has that been something you've dealt with your whole life or at certain times?
It was probably in my early 20s, and I got married when I was 19 for reasons, and had my first kid. Took me 3 years, and the marriage actually went sour pretty quick.
Your first kid took you 3 years.
Yeah,
I
took
mean,
me 3
that's
years to get.
that baby was way overdue.
Yeah, it
I'm
took me
just
3
saying,
years to
3
get
years is a
pregnant.
long time. Um,
So I'd say before that, when I was pregnant, and then more or less after, when I had her, the oldest one, the marriage kind of turned sour, and it he was a this is mine, this is mine, this is mine. Okay.
right.
So anyway, went for 3 years, 4 years, got divorced, got married again, same guy, stupid mistake. And he was it was a power play. So we divorced, done, final. And so I'm a single mom raising 3 kids.
Yeah, and that's
No car. No
divorce has the
car.
biggest hit, especially child support has not been easy to come by. And a lot of times get awarded it and people still don't pay it. It becomes one of the
Yeah.
hardest things. It's not enough to support you. As Bill said, unemployment isn't enough. A lot of times child support isn't. There's so many factors, and we try to do everything we can. Now, what about currently? The pandemic hit a lot of us really, really hard out there. Me particularly, my whole business is based on drawing a crowd. It's, pulling people in. So obviously, I'm out of business. I've lost all my money. Has the pandemic hit anybody out there hard in the chat or anybody on this panel? Did the pandemic hit anybody very hard?
Well, I think it hit everyone hard. Everybody's situation's a little different. I was lucky that my ex-husband could work from home so he could still pay his child support. So then, and I have autistic children, so as soon as they were home, I couldn't work because they can't be left home alone. And of course, I'm not bringing someone in my house to watch them when everybody's getting sick, so it was kind of a twirl and a bittersweet that my mom and sister were here when the lockdown came and they sold their house, because they have Social Security. So everything on my end was still okay. So I know other people out there that struggled quite a bit, though. So I was very blessed with all of that.
It can also have its toll on people like you, because I know you, Lenny, you're a very generous person. And you probably spent a lot of money on helping people who needed it as well.
I
that
tried.
You wouldn't usually have to. I know you very well, especially in that sense. So does that take a bigger toll on you too? Do you feel torn between the idea of always wanting to help somebody and financially being able to?
No, it's not a torn. It makes me feel good if I can.
But your situation, like I said, you said you're good in a point if you can. One of the things with me is I was one of the people who always helped people out too, and I always wanted to give money where I could. If you needed it, I didn't care. And I was finally in a situation that I couldn't do that anymore.
Yeah, right.
And that was what tore me, and I would often go into debt doing that. What about you, Jan? Has the pandemic, or Bill, either one of you, has the pandemic had any big impact financially on you?
It got better. It got almost better. And for
So it got better with you, Jan, you're saying? Over time,
Yeah.
It started with the impact and then it improved?
yeah, it
Sorry,
got
neighbor.
better. It took a long time, and I learned a lot of lessons, and I learned the line I want, but do I need
Right.
type of thing.
We're definitely going to be touching on that in a little bit, because that's one of the biggest things people do that get them in financial trouble. We've got another panelist joining us right now, upside down. Oh, she's right side up now. Cool. Please welcome to the panel, Ashley. Ashley, welcome back.
Hi, Ashley. Nice
Hey,
to meet you.
Ashley.
Hi guys,
How are
thanks
you?
for having me. Hi.
Well, we're glad to have you. We're always glad when you're on this show. You got that cheery disposition that I love. It makes everybody smile. Look, everybody in the panel smiled when you appeared. Look how easy that is. If Bill was here, he'd have to step off
good.
for a
I'm
minute.
glad
The
I
other
could bring
Bill.
that.
I was like, he'd
Yeah,
have to.
probably.
So, Ashley, we're talking a lot. You obviously know the topic because you're on the show right now, and it's about the financial struggle. Now, have you had to deal with that a lot in your life? You're young. Has it been a hard effect on you?
Yes. So between growing up and being an adult myself, paying for my own bills, putting myself through college and everything. Growing up, lived in a trailer park, which there's nothing wrong with that, but we struggled. There'd be times where some things would happen between my parents, bills weren't paid, so we would come home, the lights would be off, no electric, things like that. So we go to my nana's for a set amount of period, which I remember these things as a kid, but I just remembered like going to Nana's because the lights were off. And then as I was older and kind of piecing things together and having adult conversations, I was like, oh, shit was pretty messed up back then. That's why the lights were off.
Now, did you notice? So when you were growing up, that's what me and Lenny were partly talking about, and I'm assuming the other two panelists as well. When we were growing up, we didn't know without directly overhearing in Lenny's case or any direct proof that we were as poor as we were. Now, was that the case with you?
Sometimes I was fortunate enough. My grandparents paid for me to go to private school. And so I did have some friends where I had like maybe one friend that would come over, but a lot of my other friends didn't want to come over when they found out where I lived, and I would go to their houses and just be like, "Oh my God!"
So you were like busting, you were like busting to other schools or your private school and stuff. So you didn't live in the same area at all.
Yeah,
in public school, we were all poor and we knew it. You know, you'd have an extra chair in your living room, and be like, "Oh my God, you're rich! Like, so much money. You're so special." We were asking also about the pandemic. Before I get back to you, Ashley, Bill, I wanted to ask you that question. With the pandemic hitting, how did it impact you financially?
It really, because I'm semi-retired, it really didn't affect me a lot because I've had to live off of what little money I've got. and get used to it.
Mm-hmm.
So it really didn't affect me per se. I did wish I had more money. Getting a job was hard because it is hard because one, of my age, and two, because they were closing everything. So
Right.
it was hard, what you go to apply for a job and then you find out the place is closed. They're out of business, and you feel like you wasted your time. So that's the
So
only
is the
way it
business for
really
sure.
affected.
Well, yeah, but we all seek employment. With everybody closing, employment wasn't around, and there was employment around, but it was first it was really sought after. But the reason the employment was around the most was because people suddenly didn't want to work when it hit. So, and you were stuck with the moral dilemma, regardless of political beliefs. Moral dilemma of do you want to face that virus or do you not?
Mm-hmm.
Because when it first hit, it was so unknown. We knew nothing. We just knew that it was spreading throughout the world and it was scary. And Ashley, pandemic-wise, has there been a big impact on you before we start talking about the nitpicking about finances?
No, I was very blessed that my jobs, both my one now and then before, I was quote unquote essential, so I got hazard pay when I was working at the juvie because we had to go to work. Our services could be stopped, so thankfully I was not impacted with the pandemic financially.
Well, that's a fortunate thing. Has anybody in the chat been affected by our pandemic? Please let us know on that. We'd love to hear about it as well. Now, I'm going to ask this. Everybody here pretty much grew up poor. Is that correct? Does that sound about right?
Yeah.
Well, Jan's kind of shaking her head like, well,
Kind
I
of middle.
mean, so yeah, Jan's like, she was fine. I was that rich spoiled brat that everybody hated. That's okay.
I wouldn't say poor.
My
But-
dad worked at Chrysler. He was a foreman.
Well, there you go. So Jan was a little better, but I mean, all families still struggle. My question is right now, where was the change in your life? Because you can't just, like Linda, you're a great example. You can't just leave the house and suddenly you're rich. So what was the process to get you where you wanted to be?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, why not? Ashley is MIA for the moment, so there
Well,
she is.
I had a very unique job. So I'm an athlete. I rode show jumping horses, and my job just kind of went from level to level to level, so not much affected me financially because at any point in time I could make more money.
Now, did you have that job at your parents' as well? So you left financially secure?
Well, I gave riding lessons the time when I was like a teenager to other people, and I made money that way and just realized that I could make a heck of a lot more money doing what I do and did than I could, going out and getting a real job. I don't know if you call that. It is a real job because I don't not work, but it's a pretty special job that you can make a good living on. But I just knew growing up that I did not want to. My mom always had to rely on my dad. My dad was the only one that worked because she had to stay home with children and a handicapped daughter, so it was difficult, so she always had to depend on him. Well, then he passed away. So now there's like not a whole lot there. Once that happened, it was struggling.
So now, did you turn into the person that, when that happened, did you start helping your mom out more? Did you take over that role because you said you were a little more secure and didn't want to ask anybody?
I was a little older than when that had happened. But I think we all kind of pitched in and just helped,
All right, Bill, you said you grew up poor as well, and you've been struggling your whole life pretty much financially for the most part, on and off, correct?
Yes.
Now, when you left your home, when you decided to enter adulthood, did you do college or anything like that?
Yes, I did.
What kind of strain was that?
What
kind of strain was that?
Oh, well, I had to work full time and go to school. I guess you would call it part time. I went in the evenings. Okay, and it was 3 days a week. I would go. I went to Lawrence Tech Institute of Technology, which is now Lawrence Technical University, and I got an got an associate's degree in electrical engineering technology. Unfortunately, for a while there, I could not get a job in electronics because they said you had to have experience. Well, if nobody hires you, how do you get your experience? But so
Yeah.
I went in the Navy.
Mhm.
I went in the Navy. I went in the Navy and got my experience. And then when I got
Okay.
out, within time, I worked at a small shop, but then I picked up, a job working as a temp under contract, and the company called Technicolor liked my work, and they let all the other temps go except me.
You said
And
like Technicolor, like Technicolor, like the
Technicolor,
actual
yeah,
Technicolor.
Technicolor
Oh wow,
Video Entertainment Services.
wow, wow. So you improved there. Uh, the reason I was asking you about the college is I personally think the financial road to success is kind of broken. And the reason is you need the money for college, and it puts you in debt so far you can hardly get away from it. Getting a job
Mhm.
instantly out of college is not near as easy as it once was. Was not near as easy as it was for me, and it definitely wasn't as easy for me as it was for my parents because everybody was looking. Now, Ashley, did you go to college? Did you do college?
Yeah, I have my bachelor's.
So, since you're more recent in that experience, how was it hard for you? How did you manage to get through? Because I know it had to be a big strain. Did you go on scholarship or did you have to pay for it?
Both. Well, another blessing. I half of my tuition was the scholarship, and the other half was FAFSA grant money because my father didn't make any money, so the government gave me a grant to pay for the other half for a while. So I only had to take out a loan my last semester.
Oh, I just spilled my drink. Okay. Anyway, I missed the keyboard. I'm okay. So we're safe. Okay, so you took out the grant. Did you was it an endless debt and did you get a job right away or is it something you had to search for? How did that go? How was the did basically I guess what I'm asking, did it ever feel like it wasn't worth it during the process?
Oh my gosh, yes. Because I wasn't living at home, my parents didn't pay for my school, and my books, the loan I had to take out. I was living with an ex at the time, so I was paying for all my expenses, and I was working full time as a manager at Airtime, and I was also going to school full time at Oakland University. So there were a lot of exhausting days where I was like, this is not worth it. And then my final semester, we had to do a capstone where I interned at a care house in Macomb County, and they required 16 hours there. So I had to do 16 hours with them, full time school, and a full time job where I was just like, fuck this. I'm losing my mind.
It does. It
Yeah.
drives you into the ground to try to succeed. And
Yes.
high school and junior high and elementary school, well, they're fucking teases, honestly, because they make you think you go for the 6 hours, you go home, you play, you're good, and you get to
Hmm.
college and you realize, holy shit, the world is real, and you start to understand how much work your parents have gone through and how much is involved in keeping everything together. Now, where did you live during the college the entire time?
On an apartment off campus, and then we rented a home for a little bit in Lake Orion.
Well, you obviously made it through, and my question is how? Because at the start, it had to be overwhelming to the point you didn't have a dollar. And by the end, I'm sure you were better off. What were the secrets to getting through that?
Honestly, I'm a firstborn, so I'm the oldest. So I've always been used to taking care of my siblings and helping out around the house. In high school, I always had two or three jobs. I taught martial arts. I helped out at a dealership, babysitting. So transitioning from that to working with college and nannying and then being a manager at Airtime, it it's just you don't. There were some times where I find myself starting to get into a dark place. Like I can't do this anymore. Like I would have that negative self talk and be like, it's not worth it. I can make the same amount of money I'm making
Right.
forever, and I'd still be okay because I was living comfortably. I was able to afford my housing, my bills, food, and everything else. Um, but then I would push past it just because it's like I want to break the cycle in my family. I want to do something different. I I'm the first with a degree, and my grandma was a huge advocate for me too. She's like, "No, keep going.
So
Like
there was
it'll
a
be worth it."
big goal there as well as like a pride thing going on with that because you wanted to make everybody proud in your family to be the
Yes.
first. Well, congratulations on being the first 100%. I want to get back to a little bit more on that shortly. I was going to bring this up later, but Cole Orton's here. Hi, Cole Orton. Good to see you again. Some
Hi.
people seem to think that bankruptcy is simply a get out of debt free card. Is this really the case? So let's discuss. What are your thoughts on that? Anybody?
No, I don't think so. I had a girlfriend that moved in with. We moved in right after my divorce. We moved into a home together, and she had went through bankruptcy, and she had the hardest time credit wise with for 7 years. You can't do much of anything. You can't buy much of anything unless you've got money. They're not just gonna give you a loan for much of anything. So you're kind of strapped for a long time until you can get your credit back on track.
Yeah, it's I don't think it's necessarily get out of debt free. I do believe there are cases where bankruptcy is a good and probably your best choice. They are rare because sometimes it's 10 years too if you do a full wipe of your bankruptcy. It's like 10 years on there. And it's not to get out of free, but there's certain times when you look back in 10 years, there's no way I'm going to be better off.
Right?
Even if you pay half your debt, and that's where it comes in handy. But too many people have a couple $1,000s in debt, and they're just like, I'm going to file bankruptcy and I'll be good in 7 years. And it doesn't work that way.
No.
Has
No.
anybody here filed bankruptcy before? I have. So I was like, I actually filed bankruptcy in 2008 during when we had the recession over here, and my house, which was a $130,000 house that I owed, went down in value to $6,000.
Yeah, that was happening all over the
Yes.
board. That was around the
Yes.
same time my girlfriend did with hers too.
Yeah, and it was the option for me. It was just to walk away, get it out, and start. But I'm going to tell you right now, I don't know if I'd do it again. First of all, the recession recovered. Housing values went up. But of course, work, making the money, didn't come in to pay the bills. But I am still paying for that bankruptcy 13 years ago. I'm done with the bankruptcy, but I'm still trying to get my credit back up. I'm still trying to build everything. It's a slow process. You don't have the whole thing through college and growing up and getting your gas card and stuff. It isn't as easy as building it the first time. Because even though your bankruptcy is gone, one thing I learned about bankruptcy that people don't know with creditors, they think when you're done with bankruptcy, your credit can be good again. But a creditor can keep something on your report for 7 years. And during bankruptcy, they can report you went bankrupt for the entire duration of that bankruptcy. So if they report the last month of your bankruptcy, that report stays on there for another 7 years beyond
God.
or
Wow.
more until you fight to have it off. There are so
Switch
many
over.
caveats to it. And it does, and I'm still trying. I get up there and I get down because it makes your credit score also very fragile. No matter something really simple can just take it right down. So to answer your question, Cole Orton, does anybody else have something to say about that?
Well, really quick on the credit score thing. As a kid, did any of you guys have any idea what a credit score meant? No, and I
No.
think
No.
I think that needs to be like brought up, because even some young parents and stuff, don't realize just how much a credit score can help or hurt you. Here these poor people that have no money, that have a bad credit score, have to pay more on a loan because their credit score is low and they don't have any money.
Yeah.
Well, credit scores are much different now because over the last, I'd say probably 15 years, the process of getting any kind of help, any kind of financial assistance, whether it be a loan, a mortgage, has changed to a computer-generated result. Whereas it used to be they would look at your payment and say, yeah, you had some goofs in the past, but look, we see what you've done here. Yeah, we'll we'll give you a chance. They don't do that anymore. And especially, again, pandemic-wise, the requirements of your credit to get anything skyrocketed. I had to buy a new car because of, mine was just dying. It was during pandemic, and they're like, You're not going to get the interest rate you had on there, even though I made every payment on time, except for like one early on the loan. No problem. You're not going to get that. You need at least a 700 to pull that off. 700 is like impossible in my situation to get right now. That was less like they don't even consider somebody under a 650, no matter who you are. And I didn't understand the numbers, and the worst thing about not understanding the numbers is they change the value of those numbers consistently. A 600 was worth taking a chance on easy before.
Mm-hmm.
And now, no. And now you got to be like gold credit. And if you have that much money, you probably don't need the same kind of help.
Right.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's flawed. And there's very little history looking on it. Wayne said on there, he just filed, and it was discharged in February this year. You just filed the bankruptcy was discharged, so it'll stay on your report for the 7. I don't know if you did 10 or 13 or 11. There's different ones, they stay as long. And it's hard. I will say one thing that will help. Even though it's expensive, some of these car places that are ridiculous as far as buy here, pay here, or anything like that, if you find one that reports to a credit agency during your bankruptcy, it will help you as long as you pay it. Same with a gas card, a finger hut card, or something very simple like that with easy approval. It will help you get through it a lot because you're constantly going to be fighting these negative things, but as the positive starts to outweigh them, when 7 years is up, you've got 7 years of good history behind it. If you wait till the end to try to do that, you've got 7 more years to get it up there, if not longer. So, I mean, you get in those situations, though, Wayne, nothing to be ashamed, of course, because I had to do it myself, and I think a lot of us could be in situations where we'd have to do it. Tony's here and says, hey, Lynn, hey, Keith, hey, Tony.
Hi, Tony.
Can you at least be nice and say hi to Jan and Bill?
Tony,
and
hey,
Ashley?
Tony, I think you should call in. I think Tony should call in, or every once in a while be a guest on the show.
I think he should. I think everybody should, because that's what we're here for. We love hearing him. So that answers Colton's bankruptcy thing, is like we were saying. Now, how do you move on? Ashley, has your financial situation improved, and is it because of you or people in your life? And I don't mean that in a bad way, but sometimes two people make for a much better situation.
Yeah, it's gotten better. And just knowing the things, like Lenny made a perfect point. Like I wish in high school, like they teach you about credit scores or actual life skills. And I know some high schools are talking about like adulting classes as seniors, but it's needed because that would help out so many people. And I mean, in college, oh my God, there were so many the credit card people would be like, hey, you need a credit card? You're 18, 19, and depending on your maturity level and your understanding, it's like, yeah, I'll take free money. And I had friends that did that. I was like, it's not free money. And I tried to talk, no, it's fine because I'm going to pay off this and that. And then they didn't. And then it got buried and it got buried.
Yeah.
But no, definitely now financially it's better. But with school too, I mean, one of my best friends, she has her master's and she's over $60,000 in debt. So it's like, how do you pay that off?
I can get
you get
that.
a good job. Hopefully you get out and get a good job.
But it costs you more to be in debt. That's the biggest problem.
Right.
If you're in debt, it costs you more. And it's a fucked up system because you can't afford to pay it already. So we're going to charge you more so you never get out of it. The way interest works on this stuff, it's bad. Now I want to go a little bit further in the future because we hit our childhoods, we hit college, but I'm going to go way in the future right now because we've got Jan and Bill here. And I don't mean that in any bad way, of course. Either one of you rely on Social Security or other means of support. Bill and Jan, both of you do. See, I went the right direction. All right, on there. Okay, now, do you feel that your payments subsidize what you need to live?
No, hell no. In fact, I got in trouble with Social Security there for a while because I didn't expect to get hired again. And I got hired by Ford as a temp, and I got in trouble. I got penalized because I was making more money than I was allowed to before turning 67. I'll be 67 this year. And Social Security can kiss my butt. I can make as much money as I want. So, I won't be, it's just a matter of getting somebody to hire me. But no, you don't get enough to survive. There's no way. I mean, even if you were to die, you don't get enough. They'll give you $250
Okay.
towards your funeral.
Can
Yeah,
I
when they go.
add in here? So here's another thing that I learned with the whole Social Security. You get back what you put into it.
Right.
So here's the thing: if you're a sole proprietor or somebody that gets paid cash a lot or whatever it may be, they're thinking, "Oh yeah, that's great." But the reality is, if you don't put in to the system, then when you get older, that's all you get. So people need to think about that. And kids, again, it's kind of like the uh, not knowing the credit score thing. They don't really know. Everybody just thinks, oh, when I get old, I'll get Social Security. Well, you have to work to get Social Security. So all you youngsters, get out there, and everything that is taken out of your paycheck goes toward what you get back when you get old enough to take it out.
But again, I think
If
that
it's still
system is
here.
broken. I think
Yeah.
that system's broken because you don't get everything you put into it. It was designed that way, but you don't. And at the same time, people strive. The American dream is to own your own business. To be, not, to be self-reliant pretty much on there. So you're given a choice. Do you work for somebody else and go nowhere, or do you try to start your own business, which you can't put into Social Security for a good portion of it?
You try to do both. You invest, and you try to do a little bit of both.
But the topic of this show is living week to week, and that's what I'm talking about. It's a financial
Right.
struggle.
You don't have the
There
money
is none.
to put it in. Right.
Yeah,
Right.
and it's been horrible. I'm in case management, and a lot of my low income people, especially with the $600 that became a tax credit for some people, I had people calling me like, "Hey, I need a program to help pay my DC because I just got a shut off notice." And thank God there are different resources out there for different bills, but there's so many people out there that are struggling, and especially because of this pandemic that were directly
Yeah.
affected, where it's not week to week, it's day to day with
Yes.
kids in school and virtual school too. So now they got to pay for extra internet that they didn't have before. So that's another added stress.
Which brings me to another point, and we're going to go. Well, first, actually, before we go backwards, Jan, what about you and your Social Security? How do you get through that? Do you have anything to supplement those payments, or are you pretty much stuck with that's it?
Luckily, my husband's got money. He worked for an aerospace company for 29 years, and he got laid off, and he didn't get called back, and he went and filed for disability, got the pension, and then shortly after that, I got to retire, and I got my Social Security, and it was like 600 and something a month. And so my money went into his account. So when he got his pension and stuff, I'm like, okay, I want my money. I want my account, my money. That way he can't say what I can't spend.
Right.
So I got my money. So then the Social Security went up like 1.3% recently. So now I'm getting 700 something a month. But still,
But what is that?
it
Who can
the
live off that?
the rule still goes for me like it did when I was younger, and even after the kids left. Want, need.
To
The
a
rule
point, I
still goes.
I do agree with the want and need, but you're talking 700 a month. Want to have a house, I can pay three-quarters of that. There is nothing left.
No,
If you don't have that support beyond there, there's no room for that want need.
no.
And unfortunately, things we used to call luxuries are necessities now. Some of them.
hmm
Internet is a necessity.
My
Phones
ex,
are necessities.
my ex walked out before my youngest was a year old, and I had to go on state assistance. I had 3 kids. I didn't have a car. I didn't have work experience, and the bus. When you got a bus, okay, you got a bus line, but the thing is, when you get a job, is the bus going to be on time? Are you going to get to work on time? All these little factors came in. So I stayed on state aid, and my mom wanted to help me out. She'd slip me some money sometimes. My dad's stepdad. No, 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 no. Stand around 2 feet. Okay, he was the money maker of the house back then, and I hated it because I was left at trailer trash because I was on state aid because I had 3 kids, and I was having to go buy one ply toilet paper.
Oh God, that's just not
It
good.
was.
That stuff
I
hurts
used
my
to tell the
hiney.
kids, it was hard because I would tell the kids, okay, this is what you have for dinner: macaroni and cheese and hot dogs.
Ain't nothing wrong with that one.
You know, we did not go out to eat. They had Halloween, made up costumes, whatnot, trick or treat. But my child support, he would always quit jobs and get the cheapest paying jobs. So the last child support I got way back then, it was $20. And I told the kids, I'm like, go buy yourself a pair of jeans. That's all you're going to do.
You mentioned the wants versus the needs. Um, where is that line? Because we want to provide the best. We don't want to give people the bare minimums, especially when they're our family and our kids. So I'm sure even Lenny, who is doing well, but I'm sure a lot of times wants outweigh the needs because of your kids are involved. And
Hmm.
it's nice to be able to take them out. And I think family vacations are very important. And you got to struggle so hard just to do those. So
Hmm.
where do you draw the line at what a want and a need is while keeping the people you love happy?
Okay, I'll start. So at one point in time, when I had to go through a very trying court stuff that put me put me in the hole, I just went through every single thing that I truly did not need, and it started with I'd look at my credit card, Netflix. I don't need Netflix. You just start going through all the little things that add up. You don't need it. You don't need it. When you go to the grocery store, go to the aisle where everything's on sale. See if there's anything in there that you would use.
No
Those
brand, no
manager
Coupons.
sales.
brand.
I did. I did that for that whole year because I was okay, but I was so afraid of not being okay that I was proactively starting there going, okay, if this court thing keeps going and I get it totally behind the 8 ball, I can maybe curb it right now before that time comes. And I would buy things that were off brand. I would do that, and not buy any more clothing or things, or go to secondhand stores, find some cute things there if need be, especially when you got growing boys, that don't really care what they, and I just didn't buy anything new for me. Start coloring your hair yourself, COVID hair, you wind up looking like this, but you start doing stuff like that and cut corners on all those little things that you don't really have to have that you can manage.
Okay, for the people out there watching, what were your biggest struggles that you deal with regularly right now that you want to provide for somebody yourself that you find it hard to afford? I'd love to hear about that. You The problem is also with like secondhand stores you mentioned. Do secondhand stores have the same rap in school as they used to like back in the 80s and 90s? Because the
They do
problem,
now.
and I'm sure actually prior to that too, is the fact that your friends knew you went to a secondhand store.
Oh, there's no way they would know now. I found like
No, yeah. Plato's
Miss Me
Closet
That's
is
what I'm
jeans.
asking.
awesome.
That's why I'm asking.
Yeah, there's nice stuff in the stores now. I go to Plato's
Mm-hmm.
Closet quite a bit. Even
Mm-hmm.
sometimes Salvation Army, there's
Mm-hmm.
tags still on these clothes.
Mm-hmm.
They
There's
do.
nice stuff out there.
Now, those that did grow up in an earlier time, probably Bill and Jan here, and even myself. Did you deal with your friends knowing that you were wearing secondhand clothes?
When I was younger, yes.
No.
But now, I have no problem with going into Salvation Army and getting a pair of jeans that fit me. And I think that things were different back then because people more or less, whatever Salvation Army got, it was something that nobody wanted and it was practically wore out. And it's not the case these days. It's kind of different.
Okay, that as you grow up, you don't care, and that's me too. Now I don't care either. But I didn't know if they got the same rap. I'm actually really happy to hear that you can get so much better stuff because honestly, maybe it was just my neighborhoods and stuff. Our secondhand stores, you knew you were wearing some other guy's clothes, and so did everybody around you. They just could tell because I mean, also in the 90s.
Because it was theirs.
Well, also, yeah, that actually has happened too. That's my shirt. No, it's not. I bought this new. Why is my name on the tag? Fuck you. But it was also in the 90s primarily, it was a big thing to wear brand names. And brand names were not
in the
to be found
80s.
in secondhands. Yeah.
Calvin Klein jeans, yeah.
Yeah, so if you didn't have a brand name,
Road.
or if you were wearing Rustlers, and I know that name well, or certain jeans, they would know. They would know they're off-brand. So you still try to obviously provide what you can for them. Now, as far as paying bills, and as I said, a lot of things are necessities that used to be luxuries, especially when it comes to technology, phones, and internet primarily. Everyone needs to have it, which is why the prices are so high. Now, what is your tricks to balancing through the month, towards the end of the month? How do you figure actually, I'm going to bring Rachel's question into this. Rachel, or not her statement, you learn to get very creative with your finances, and that is true. How? What is the creative process with finances? And I'm going to tell you right now, I've always been a broke-ass bitch. I've tried very much, and every time I get close to succeeding, something drops me backwards. Biggest thing, of course, this time was pandemic, but it's been something my whole life that has dropped me backwards when I'm getting ahead. But I never go without. I pull shit out of my ass somehow, and I don't know how I frickin' do it half the time. So what are some creative ways you come up with that makes you happy? And the reason I'm also asking about you being happy, too, is like, when I get really depressed, I will go to the store and buy something I don't need. Because I feel I've earned it. It makes me happy that I got something for me that I earned that is just mine that I wanted. So what are your creative ideas? And Rachel, what's yours?
Who wants to start on this one?
Obviously not you, Lenny.
No, I have some. I was just letting other people jump in there.
I kind of, take a look at what I have to pay. All right, I have to pay my rent. I have to pay my cell phone because if I don't have a phone, I can't get out there.
Right, the necessities. Yeah.
Yes, I look at my necessities and I see what I've got and what I have, and then if there's things that I can do without, and I've had to do without, I do without. Because I have to pay the major things. Things that it's called survival, actually. You cannot survive these days without a phone. I mean, in my eyes. All right.
You can't.
And TV. If you buy an antenna, TV's free. But if you want to see some of the movies that everybody else, you gotta pay for it.
And that's expensive. That is so expensive.
It's gotten. I mean, I was fine. It used to be 15, 20 years ago. You didn't have cable. Who cares? You still had stuff to watch. It's not an option anymore, really. It's not the same option. You can get those HD antennas, but those don't work a lot of places. You need to be within a certain range of a lot of stuff to do it. Wayne says right here, so people always ask me why I shop at Salvation Army since I have a good job. I tell them if they don't like my life choices, they can go to hell. I'm not paying $40 for a dumb pair of jeans. 40? I'm a fat man. Do you know how much I got to pay for fucking jeans? That's where I'm disadvantaged at Salvation Army. They don't have a lot of clothes for people of my caliber, So it is a little harder for me to shop. But this, Wayne, what you brought up is an excellent point that people don't do, because you said you have a good job and you're still buying your clothes at Salvation Army. And that's something people forget, that just because you're making more money, yes, you deserve to treat yourself. It's important to treat yourself every once in a while. But don't stop being kind of frugal or thrifty. Start it, because that's how you save. It's the only way some of us can save, because you are living end to end per paycheck.
I think pride goes into a lot of that too, or at least some of it, especially like when you grow up poor, like continuing those habits into like growing up and being an adult, I don't care if I have off-brand food, and the people I live with don't care that it's off-brand. And the same thing with the clothes, like you said, no matter how much you're making, the more you save, and you kind of have that cushion, which you become comfortable with too. Like to this point, I growing up poor, like I always have to have a set amount in my savings because I'm so scared that I'm gonna go back to the no lights, to going back to someone else's house to live at because everything will be off. So you have to continue those habits, even if you can afford better. And there's a difference between treating yourself and living above your means.
I think people that are over the age of like 35 often don't have the same respect for like store brand foods, because off brands when we were younger were the nastiest shit in the world. Like they were. But now, like Kroger brand, I trust Kroger on almost everything. Their brands are fantastic. You don't have to go, Some brands still aren't so good, but a lot of them are. And I think that's part of the reason that people get flustered too. Now I'm going to go a little against the grain here, because you said pride is one thing and pride is important. But when you get really struggled and you get really bogged down and you feel you're not going to make it and you can never afford to do anything, I highly recommend putting yourself into a little more debt for a moment and do something for you. Because the biggest reason we get so depressed and we get so upset is that we're constantly shelling money out and we're seeing nothing in return. Well, you're still going to be in debt afterwards. But take a moment. Now, don't do it every week, maybe once a year. Take a little trip somewhere, buy something for you, or do it. Because you'll feel you have worked for something you enjoy or something you like.
And then it'll give you that ambition to keep working towards something else, right?
And once you do it, say you do it once a year, you'll say, that was fun. Let me start saving for the following year. Let me do something else for the following year. And if you have something to look forward to, you're going to be a happier person. No direction is what pushes us all into the darkness most of the time. Did you have, before I get to the next two questions here, Lenny, your creative ideas?
Oh, well, he kind of popped onto a few of them, but it was the things that you truly do in your hair. Most girls that go get their hair done, it is like $200. Go have your girlfriend do your hair, whatever, do some, and then go in the stores and go to those places, off brands, sales things, even some of the steaks and stuff like that. If you're going to cook them up that evening, are half the amount of money than it would be than to go. Every time people go to Costco, they think they're saving money, but I've never left Costco for less than $500.
The problem is with Costco, a lot of stuff they buy in this bulk gets wasted. And they spend so much because you're buying it in such bulk. Now, one of my tricks is shopping, like you were saying. I'm a yellow tag shopper is what I call it. I literally don't even look at, unless it's a necessity like milk or bread or something like that, the basics. I don't even look at an item unless I see a yellow tag on it. Because it's on sale, usually at a really great deal. And that is a way you don't realize that you save a $200 shopping trip. If you yellow tag shop, would have probably been $400 without it.
And here's another little funny thing. So say shopping at Kroger. I hate paying for gas. I hate it. But you get the gas points,
Well,
So that's the next thing. Airline points, gas points, everything that I do, I'll put on one credit card and then pay it off at the end of the month. You don't let it keep going. So you give yourself a budget, you pay that off, and then you wind up with those points and better credit. And you can then do something with that maybe at the end of the year with a little travel thing or for yourself.
Well, you're right. The two things I do most that I shop is Kroger and Speedway. And obviously, yes, your bad habits are causing money too. I want to point that out.
Yeah.
So we understand that. But I do, because of the reason you just said. First of all, those points. Those points help so much. Like literally, your grocery shopping can save you 30, 40 cents plus a gallon the next month. Which is a great fill up and a lot of money you're saving. Speedway, the same thing. As you build up points, you get a lot of free stuff. I actually, with my points every year for Speedway, around Christmas, I usually can get $200 to $400 in gift cards for free just from that year's points.
Right.
That's free money by sticking with something, and those rewards programs, some of them really do help out.
And here's another, this is kind of silly, but I know like if I diet, I have to weigh myself every single day. So keep track of what you're spending. One time I just went through the month, and this was a long time ago when I was married. I'm like, how is our credit card, this much money? I went through the month and I figured out how much money we were spending on eating out. And that's little things. He would stop at McDonald's for breakfast, just little things like that. And then us eating out. It was $1,500 a month.
Yeah.
So I said, no more of that. And I gave ourselves a budget we were just going to do a test drive, a budget for a little bit more for groceries and utilize eating in and making lunches and making stuff like that. Saves you so much money.
I don't think that's as true as it once was, though. In
No,
some way, eating out regularly, I actually agree. Like if you're going to a restaurant or doing something like that, for sure.
McDonald's is like $20 every time you come through now.
Oh my God.
It depends on what you order, though. It depends on what
Their
you order.
prices all went
The
up.
average person will be, let's say, 2 double cheeseburgers. The average person's going to be full with. They're $3. And this is not about healthy options, because please me, I hate McDonald's and I don't recommend them. But it's $3. If you're a single person, $3 is really hard to eat alone by if you got to grocery shop and cook. It really is. It doesn't go very far.
You still have to get in a car, use your gas, go to the place.
How do you get your groceries?
Huh?
It's the same process.
Yeah, but you're buying a bulk. You're buying a bunch one time.
But again, what you're forgetting, what I just said, is you're a single person.
No, this was me with my kids.
No. I'm saying
going through
if you're
McDonald's.
a single person, that option for a $3 meal is better because yes, you get more when you go to the grocery store, but you're single. You're going to throw half of it out.
And then the next day, you're going through fast food and you're getting really bad food for you, and then your health goes bad. Then you're spending money on healthcare stuff.
You can get 2 steaks off tacos at Taco Bell for like $4.
And that's terrible for you.
Actually, no, those are actually rather good for you. Those are one of the few things on the menu that's actually good for you. It is, seriously. A little high in sodium, that's it. I know this. I'm a fat man. I've tried dieting. Taco Bell diet. But no, there's so much that is terrible. The thing is, most people don't go to a fast food restaurant and they don't eat on a budget when they do. They want that combo that's $9 or whatever because they've gone so far up and all that. But there's ways to budget your money and still get what you want, I guess, is ultimately what I'm saying. If you're one that likes those fast food meals or something, go. But change what you buy. I'm not a big fast food person. I have weaknesses. Yes, Jan. I'm going to go back. I'm Cole, and I'm going to get to you in a minute.
I took my kids to Salvation Army one time, all 3 of them, for Christmas.
Mm-hmm.
And I gave them money, each one, and I told them, all right, you spend $35. I gave them $40. But I told them, you spend $35 on clothes and you keep the rest. My son came over to me. He had 2 pair of pants and 3 shirts on his arm already. He's all right, Mom. You said spend $35 and I can have the rest. I says, yeah, because you better get a truck. They loved it. They didn't care if it was off-brand. It was what they liked. They loved it. And that's how we had a Christmas. That was the Christmas present. And they loved it.
I actually want to expand on that in a minute, so don't let me forget to get back to that, because that's one thing I think where parents are playing a role in what they're teaching kids, because what you're doing is teaching them how to budget and have what you want, and I think parents are lacking that a lot nowadays, because either they're spoiling their kids by getting them absolutely whatever they want without consequences, or they're just the ones that don't care that the kids have to spend every penny they have on themselves because they can't be taken care of, and it's a double-edged sword. But I want to get to this comments here because we got a question from Cole Orton. Were any of you ashamed for accepting charity at all? Some people I know, despite being in a poor financial state, would never accept charity, all due to pride. It could be welfare from the state, the church, private charities, just wouldn't accept any of it. Jan's shaking her head no. I am going to put me as a fuck yes. Similar to the way Lenny is, I don't want help from anybody. My problems are not theirs. I want to be able to be self-sustained, 100%. And this past year, there was one incident prior, but this past year, for the first time, I had to ask for help from people, or I had to get on, state relief or something like that. I'm actually on food stamps. I've been on food stamps since I first started out because I have no income. I have no way to pay for this stuff. And I hate it. I'm ashamed of it. And it's partly the pride, but it's almost like I'm letting myself down.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm disappointing my family that raised me. They're no longer around. And I'm letting them down because they taught me these skills. Now, mind you, if my mother was around, she would be totally supportive in all this, and she would love me and tell me we all go through it and blah, blah, blah. I know that. But I'd still feel disappointing to them inside.
Yeah.
And so I hate it. And I had a really good friend that helped me out a lot towards the end of the year and a little bit in the beginning of the year for just little bits of help that anybody could have done. She helped me out immensely. And I still feel bad for it, but I'm forever grateful. And that's one of the things that you deal with because we need it. Uh,
I'd like to add something to that when you're
I'd
done.
like you to. Go ahead, Bill.
When I was younger, okay, my dad was a disabled vet, uh, and we weren't rich at all. And I had a lunch card that I took to school with me, and I saw all the other students paying cash for their food, and I had this card, so I felt like a stigma. All right. And that was a blow to me. And I think it kind of affected me when I got older because if I couldn't do it myself, I didn't want to ask anybody for help.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of felt that way being a vet. All right. Today, uh, my nephew kept telling me to go to the VA and because I'm a veteran and get this and get that. And I felt like, well, if I can't do it myself, I don't want it because it
Right.
was a blow to my pride that I had to ask for help. And I have to be honest, if it weren't for the VA right now, I wouldn't have my hearing aids. I wouldn't have some of the things that I have. So, your common sense has to set in somewhere and you have to swallow your pride, and take help wherever it's offered.
Mm-hmm.
I actually, that's what I ended up doing this year too. And it was the hardest thing I've ever done. And I still, no matter how much I know I needed it, it still hurts me inside that I had to do it.
But you know what?
Ashley, oh, go
You,
ahead, Lenny.
you know what? It's like, okay, you you are such a giving person always, right?
I like to
I'm
think
the
so.
I'm the same way. So you help people when you can, as much as you can, and at some point when you needed help, there's somebody gonna be there for you, right? It's just gonna be it. That's how the world should be. You
But
help when
there's
you
something,
can, and you try to, if you're in need, let people know and let people help you when they can. And that's how our world would be a much better place if everyone just kind of thought that way.
but
I
but
believe in the
Cole
pay it
Orton's right.
forward thing.
I
It's
believe in it
karma. It's
too, but
good
not on the
karma.
receiving end. And Cole Orton's right. It's definitely due to a pride thing on there. The reason I help other people is so that they are better off, and I feel, especially people that I've helped, when they are helping me that way, they are putting themselves in a financial struggle to do so, and I cannot stand to be responsible for that. And I'm not in that case talking about state aid or something like that you
Yeah.
need. There's a little bit difference in pride there, but as far as personally getting help, and I want to ask Ashley because you kept shaking your head. Yes. How do you feel about the situation Cole Orton brought up?
Um, my mom, like when growing up, me and my siblings are pretty far apart, so we were on WIC for my obviously I don't remember when I was a baby, but for my other two siblings. And I didn't understand it at first, and then when I tried to talk to because it was just weird being able to pick out certain things, and I thought it was a good thing. And when I was telling other people at school about it, they were like, "Oh." And like that was the first time like getting help for anything was kind of looked down upon. I was like, okay, I didn't
Yeah.
understand like what the issue was, but that was definitely growing up like that. My mom would accept help from family, but she wouldn't. She would work extra hours at work or do overtime or do whatever she had to not do that.
So you've seen it. You've seen the way your mom was to avoid having to do that.
Hmm.
100%. I can't. I'll give you an example. I have a friend who loves to pretty much get free shit. And whether it's from charities or anything like that, she's all about it. Whether it's, the food, she doesn't need it. But whatever, to each their own. I try not to judge people on that. But she often will come over my house and she will bring me a box of like vegetables or fruits and government cheese or anything like that she happened to get, to be nice. And I refuse to accept it because I will make it through. And as far as I'm concerned, I'm taking away from the people who could
Somebody
use it.
else, right?
And that's how I feel when I ask for charity, because I'm like, I will get through this. It may be hard, but I'm going to get through this. I would rather that money go to someone who can't get through it, who's not going to be able to make it. And my friend doesn't really understand that I am that way. She's constantly bringing stuff. I'm like, take it back. I don't want it. I'm not going to eat all this stuff. I'm not going to use it. And if I do, it could easily help somebody else rather than me.
Mm-hmm.
Jan, though, you said, no, you're not ashamed at all in that. Can you elaborate on that?
When my kids were little, I took whatever anybody gave me. The church, the school, anybody, okay? What I do now, every time that Salvation Army bucket comes around, every time I see one,
Mm-hmm.
I'll see one and I'll walk away. My husband says, what are you doing? I said, I'll be back in a minute. I go back up to that store and I stuff money back in that bucket. And I'm like, it's payback time. I'm giving it
Right.
back.
Right.
When I worked at Walmart, I was leaving my shift one time. I was in line to get some stuff before I went home, and there was a family in front of me. There was a couple kids, mom and dad, and I seen it put some meat back. They couldn't afford it. I told the cashier, I got it. She goes, what? I said, I got it. So I got what I wanted, and I paid for theirs. On the way out, I was passing by the self-checkout. I took my discount card and swiped it on two different people's things.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea who they were. I swiped it. That was my discount card. And I walked out. I went home. Every
So you
time, if
believe
I
in the
get the
karma.
opportunity, if I give the opportunity to where I can pay it back for what I was given when my kids were little, I'm doing it. I tell them, take it, shut up, and I walk away.
That is my trick. I walk away. It's the only way you can get people to take shit half the time, especially stubborn
I
assholes
give
like
them
me.
and tell them, keep it, have a nice bye. I won't
Yeah.
take it back. I'm giving it to you.
So what goes
There's
around
no
comes
strings
what goes around comes around. And you had your troubles early on and now you're giving back. It's a full circle,
But what about those
That's
that
what
it's
I'm
not full
doing.
circle? And I think that's something that we need to address. I'm going to get to Wayne's comment, and then I'm going to go back on to that. Wayne says, my thing is I sacrifice nice things to make sure my family and friends are taken care of. It's my curse. And this leads right into what I'm talking about, actually. What if it doesn't come back full circle? Where do you get that frustration that it's been pointless this whole time? I can say this year, yes, my kindness has come back to me full circle, and that's been amazing. But during the recession in 2008, I was that person that gave to every charity like you do. I would I would put 20, 50 if I had $100 inside that little bucket. I did not care because I thought they're there, and if I ever need them, I'll be grateful they're there. And I lost my house and I filed for bankruptcy. Why? Because every institution I went to, no, no, no. For various reasons that were out of my control. The fact that I didn't have a child at that time living with me or whatever it happened to be, I'm still losing my house and I still got people to take care of. And I lost my faith in that system and I didn't donate. I didn't do anything for them for quite a few years. I'm over it now. But that's a moment where things don't come back full circle. As Wayne's saying right here, he sacrificed nice things to make sure his family and friends are taken care of. And I do that all the time, still to this day.
It's still what goes around comes around. And here's what I'm going to say to you with this. It might not be from a system that you get it back. It might not be monetarily that you get it back, but it made you feel good inside to do it. And that was what gave back.
And that is amazing,
that was what I
feels
wanted.
great until you're in that situation. And that makes you realize that there's a lot of people, especially my friends and family, not my family, I shouldn't say that one because most of them are not around, and the ones I do have to are good. But most of my friends, they aren't there anymore. And you feel like you were dropping money into an empty bucket for
But were
nobody.
you expecting it back?
No, but when I needed it, I reflected upon it. When I give it, I don't expect it back. But I do expect that whole what comes around thing. I don't think it's wrong to expect that. That if I am in need ever in the future, God help, God forbid I am, that you would be there for me. And you know what? Most people weren't. Most organizations weren't. This last year, if it wasn't for them loosening so many damn restrictions, most of these organizations would still not be there for me.
Well, they might have been. COVID threw a loop on it on a lot.
Well, that's what I'm talking about with them loosening a lot of these restrictions because of COVID. But if it was not for that, I probably still wouldn't get, help if I was in the same situation,
Well,
fortunately.
and I'm
And
gonna go ahead, Keith.
no, go ahead. I want you to do
One
it.
thing too, there are so many people who COVID shit on them, or even before COVID, if you are going through hard times, you get behind on bills, or you just kind of get in that rough spotlight, and you sometimes you don't know where to look. There are so many programs out there that I had no clue about before. Macomb County has a lot of really cool resources that the average person has no clue about it. I'm just getting into the social work field. There's so many things and organizations and churches that just don't advertise for whatever reason, or just don't outreach to people. But there's a lot of things out there. Just it's knowing where to look, and I think we definitely fall as a society for
So
not spreading that much.
Ashley, we have a platform right now. Name a few for people that are watching. And it doesn't have to be right at this moment, but if you can think about it, name a few so that way people have an idea of maybe where to go.
As a little
For
self
something.
promotion, for Your Shoulder Voice and advertising. If you go to our websites, by the way, any links and support links we talk about in the show, it is a work in progress. We've been adding a support link that has every issue on there to follow. So if you mention a link, that's good for you. We're going to add it on there, so other people can
Okay.
come to it and have resources as well.
Yeah,
right
one
at
of
the
the
top.
biggest ones that I'll just blast real quick that I always use is Macomb Action Center. They have everything from low income to family support, senior transportation, smart buses. They have a little bit of everything. So Action Center, just Google Macomb Action Center, and they cover all of Macomb, the
And
different corners.
do you have to be on Medicaid to get those services?
No,
Okay.
nope, they have different things for different people. You just kind of go through a screening process.
All right. Now let's move on to a final section here because we're hitting it. And that is the hardest thing people have. And actually, the main goal of this show is that budget and is that balance. And when you are over your head, how do you manage to get out of that? What are the steps you take? I don't know who here has been that over their head in the debt. And I'm not even talking about just your credit card bills. I'm talking about your gas, your electricity, your groceries, all that. Who has been that far over their head?
Do the math and chip away. You called your companies, utility
Yeah,
companies, the
one-
phone, water, whatever, and you said, okay, I can give you this much this month. And next month I'll give you this much. They will work with you because you're giving
That's
them
not
money.
true anymore. That is not true anymore, though. That I agree 100% with you, Jan. There used to be a trusting promise payment that you could make, that you could literally send any utility company $10 even if you wanted to, and as long as you sent them something, they'd never shut you off. That used to be a thing you could do with a lot of utility companies. It no longer is. I have been in this situation with these utility companies. I'm like, we're sorry. Not only do you have to pay your back bill that we're shutting you off for, you also have to pay a $600 reconnection fee to get back on there. And yes, and a deposit on top of that to make sure you don't. Which it got shut off. Don't you think I would have paid it to be in that situation? And they do not work with you anymore. They will direct you to places. But
why
the
is
places
it that
with the
if
fees-
this is happening, why is it, I mean, this is the first on our show that I am learning this. Why wouldn't somebody that is in that predicament take it to the news channel, take it to a major news channel,
They
and
have.
then
But when
let
you are
them
DTE in our
expose
case-
let them expose this to the world, and maybe then those big companies would quit being so selfish.
But they won't. They've monopolized it. In our area, DTE is pretty much your electric service. You don't have any other choice. As long as they're doing that, they can do whatever they want, bad name or not. We require electricity. Gas
Especially in the
companies
winter.
finally had the law that broke that. The gas companies, because now there's a few choices of gas companies out there. I'm actually with Semco, but Consumers is the main one out here.
But they can't shut your water off because that's hygiene, that's health. They can't do that. You've got
They
to be able
can.
to bathe.
They still can now. It depends on your situation and your living situation. There are certain caveats. If you're on Medicare, you can't be shut off. If you are over this age or require someone to live, there's certain things they can't shut off. But they have every right to,
That's
and
like
they are
if you
working
got
less and less with people.
if you're on oxygen, and they can't shut your electric off if you're on oxygen.
Right, but what about people that just don't have money and they're not on oxygen? I mean, I appreciate for those people that need medical equipment. Don't get me wrong. I'm glad they won't do that. But I need to shower for work.
It's kind of like you got to talk to the right person and get it in the right hands.
I'm just saying, and I hate to disagree, but I've been down this road way too much in the last couple of years, and I was also down this road 10 years ago. It's way different. They don't want to work with you anymore. Most of them will turn you to people like Ashley, people who work in that field to try to find you help, but they will not help you themselves. They've got 100 links and phone numbers for you to call, but they all have caveats on how they're going to help you.
Do they still have Catholic charities? That used to be a big thing when I was back there.
They do.
Yeah, St. Vincent de Paul is pretty big.
Yeah. For my experience with those, it's just a long list to get on, and sometimes you don't get a call back at all because there's a lot of people in the same situation. But I am going to go to you, Ashley, because you deal with this a lot. How has the situation been for you with these companies? Do you see them turning a lot of people towards you, or do you think they're willing to easily just always work with you?
And it depends on the situation just because everyone is different, but more DTE now has a program that it's horrible because a lot of these utility companies, you have to wait till you get a shut off notice before they'll work with you. So they do have these programs, but they wait till you are $600, $700, $800 behind before they'll start working with you, and then they'll chip away, and there's different programs. But yes, I have someone right now who she was getting evicted, and which she wasn't supposed to be, but her landlord got a hold of me. We talked, and he's like, "Are you taking more people? Can you help more people?" I said yes, and I told him how. But yes, we do have a lot of people who are, it's like, I know there's help out there for you. I don't know how to get it for you. Here's this number.
Yeah, and you have to, because it is the utility companies. They just, like you said, even some of the companies that work with you, like the side companies, like the for Michigan, the Michigan DHS and stuff, they require a shutoff notice to help you. And
yes, they need that paper.
Yeah, they actually need it. And some of these electric companies or utility companies don't give you a shutoff notice till you're 3 months behind. You've been out of work or for whatever reason you were. And they're still, even with that, going to charge you fees. They're just going to tack it on your bill. I mean, I did mine. And my electric is about $600 a month. And when it first went out, and that's during the summer, because I got a pool and all that. So granted, it's me when I'm doing good. And when it went out, I called them like, well, you've got... I'm like, I wasn't using anything anymore, and I had to pay them so much on top of the $600 to make a monthly payment of like $900 for 6 months on an electric bill that was $2,400 total because of the fees, the tax, the deposit, the reconnects, and all that stuff. It's impossible to get out of it. The utility companies, you are absolutely right. Call the news, but they monopolize it. Where else are you going to get it? They're like, okay, well, we're sorry. And maybe you'll help that one person. Maybe they'll turn around and say, yeah, you called the news on us. Here's your assistance. There's thousands upon thousands of people, though, that the news is not going to want to repeat that story thousands and thousands of times. And those companies can still do what they want. That we do have to get away as a country from monopolizing companies like that that need it. Because they put... It goes everything from healthcare to anything else. If it's something required and needed for necessity of life. But now let's continue with the budgets. You said chip away. One thing I definitely will say, pay small bills first. Let your late fees go on big bills. You know, if you have 5 bills that are $30 and you have one bill that is $200, pay the 5 $30 bills. Let that bill collect a late fee, the $200. Because you're going to get the same late fee on either bill. but one will be 5 times that late fee because you have 5 separate ones. So always start small, and you're right about chipping away. Don't start with the big. Don't worry about the big unless you're in a shut-off status or something severe. I do recommend that. Any other tips out there besides chipping away?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So I had a roommate and she used to do this all the time and it made me absolutely crazy. And she didn't need the money or anything like that, but she would be gone for weeks traveling. She was a news reporter and she would come back and all her mail would be stacked. She would start going through her mail and there'd be a late fee, late fee, late fee because she was just always late paying her bills.
Right.
She would call them. She would just simply say, no, I got this late fee. That's not accurate. It didn't come in the mail, whatever. 9 times out of 10, they will take that late fee off there.
They have
And
the
I
power
would just
to
be
easily
sitting-
reverse those.
Yeah.
Yes, I would just be sitting there going, I can't believe you're doing this. You were gone. You're not, And anyway, but she always got away with it. Always.
I will say get in touch with your creditors and your bill companies. Now, as much as I said these bill companies don't work with you, sometimes there are things they can do. And they will try. But the reason the bill companies, like your utility companies, try to keep you on is because they can collect more money if you are kept on.
Exactly. So call them up and say, hey, this late fee has to go or I'm just going to cancel this.
But they'll add a lot to that. However, when it comes to credit cards, a lot of people don't know this. If you get overwhelmed in debt and you have credit cards and stuff like that you're trying to pay off, it's time to get rid of some of these credit cards.
Mm-hmm.
Do not cancel the credit card, though. Your best thing you can actually do is call the company, and a lot of credit card companies do this, and say, I don't want this credit card anymore, but I need to pay off the debt. Can you cancel my card and put me on a payback plan? It shows it keeps your account active, and you most of the time can eliminate all interest off the card too, but they're canceling your card just to pay back that balance, and it doesn't hurt your credit. If you cancel a card, again, that credit score, it's going to hurt you really bad. So don't just let them sit there. If you think you're overwhelmed, you need to get up there and you need to call the company. The biggest thing you can do in all these situations, you are right, Jan, on that, is call these companies. Same with you, Lenny, and Ashley, and, well, Bill, if you'd have said it, I'd agree with you too. But because most of them want to work with you. I mean, I'm dealing with my mortgage. I've been dealing with this for 2 years for some bullshit, an extra year because of COVID and stuff. But their big thing is like, we need to keep you in your house. Mm-hmm. They're going to make more money in the long run. It's ultimately beneficial to them, absolutely. But that is to your advantage that they want to keep you there. Cole Orton on here says, has the thought of turning to crime ever crossed your minds to try to improve your situation, be it stealing food, money, etc.? Is crime ever acceptable? Is it purely to help you survive? All right. Well, Cole Orton, absolutely. I've thought about it 100 times. When I have been in those dire situations, I've completely thought about it. I don't think I would go through with it because I do not believe it's acceptable. But food, it's a little different story. I do believe there's something to said people who steal food, as long as they're stealing legit food to survive. Not a pack of chips and a stick of gum or something, I don't think it's right in any way. But yeah, I've thought about it. I've been on the last leg. I've been to those depths where I'm like, this would be so easy if I just put on a ski mask, got a gun, and went to a bank. I don't think I ever would, but yeah, it's crossed my mind quite a bit. And anybody else? Lenny, probably not you, because you're a goody. But anybody else out there?
I would go out and shoot a deer before I would steal food.
I think that's more of a crime than stealing food.
I'm kidding.
Oh my gosh.
You are stealing food from nature,
Yeah, but I wouldn't know how to do any of the stuff you'd have to do to cook it and
all the processing.
it. Yeah. Yeah.
My luck, I get caught.
You feel you get caught?
Well, then you go to jail and you have all the food you want, three meals a day.
Yeah.
A lot of people actually, there are people who are that bad off that will turn to things that will get them thrown in jail because it is shelter, it is food,
Yeah.
it is whatever it happens
Completely
to be.
separate topic. Once they get institutionalized and they don't know how to function outside, so yeah, we would, especially with the kids, we would get that. They would have the reliability of housing over them, didn't have to worry about people sneaking up on them, trying to do things to them, and they had 3 hops and a cot is what we called it.
Yeah,
Yeah. Right.
that's what it was. So Bill's afraid he'd get caught. At your lowest, Ashley, did you ever consider doing something like that?
Um, no.
Even if you never
Uh,
would.
I I mean, I think we've all had the thought in the back of our heads that we could all be like strippers or prostitutes at some point, but I'm
When you charge by the pound, it's a money making
Ew.
deal.
no, I'm too I like the same thing. I'd be too scared to get caught,
You'd
and
be too scared.
I don't like that juju. It's bad juju.
Hmm.
Jan, even as a kid, this has never entertained your mind at all. You never had that thought, even to get clothes or steal something from the store, because a lot of
No,
times
I
poor kids
didn't.
do.
I I
I
did
know that.
steal money from my dad, but not when I was younger, when I had the three kids, because before I got state assistance, and like I said, we were getting a lot of stuff through charity, the churches and everything. And I went over to the house with somebody, and I says, "Okay, you keep him busy, this and that. My mom will be standing there talking. I know where the money's at. I went and did my thing, this and that, got it. We left, come back home, and I had $300.
How do you reflect on that situation now?
It went to food for the kids for a month.
Going for the end of Cole Orton's question: is crime ever acceptable if it's purely to help you survive? How do you reflect on that? Answering that question,
Hmm.
Jan. There's no wrong
That's
answer.
what I did, though.
So the answer is yes. It is acceptable, and
Yeah,
I think some of us think that when it comes to survival, especially with our family, we would do anything. A lot of crimes are committed by people who are exactly doing that.
Desperate. Hmm.
Yeah, it's out of desperation. It's not. I don't think it's necessarily acceptable, but it is one of those, guilty with a reason type deal. Guilty with
I didn't feel
explanation.
guilty about it. I didn't feel guilty about it because we had like a little cubby thing down in our basement or the stairs, and he had a box down there, and it was like he was a banker. He had all this money in the box. He had most of them in the bank, but he had all this money, and I'm like, I knew where it was at. I knew where the key was at. I had to get the kids some food.
I've got to say, aside from everything else, Cole Orton, you are one of my favorite people on there because you are always asking really good questions for us,
Hmm.
and I really do appreciate that. So
I
I
know
love when
we
you're
had
on
to
there.
stop and really kind of think on that
Yeah,
one.
they are, and you're hitting some things that we probably wouldn't cover, which is
Hmm.
really good to hear because that's what we want. It's about you, your thoughts and suggestions as well. Now, my question to you, Cole Orton, because you're asking all of us, but of the three or the two questions that you asked us that I want to hit back, I'm not going to ask you about the get out debt free. Were you ever ashamed for accepting charity? And has that thought ever crossed your mind? Just curious, Cole, because we like hearing from you on there. So budget, pay the bills, give up what you can. It is funny, Lenny. You had mentioned writing the list down of what you were spending. There are so many phone apps that do that for you. And actually, not to advertise for anything, Truebill is actually a pretty good app for that. Truebill sends you a notice at the end of the month just from basic usage because the Nexus says you spent this much on fucking fast food, you spent this much on gas, you spent
Hmm.
this much everywhere. Truebill's really good for that because you don't have to do anything but sign up, and then you get those notifications. But there's other apps out there that do that too. But planning a budget is one of the most important things you can do. Figure out what you make, what you can afford, and literally not a weekly budget, a daily budget. This is how much I can afford for breakfast, lunch, dinner. This is
Hmm.
how much I afford. I need this gas. Take that away. Get your necessities out of the way first. And no matter what, put some money aside somewhere. Even $2. It may not seem like a lot, but $2 a day at the end of the year is $750. And
Yep,
most of us could, you know,
pay yourself.
Yeah.
yeah, we could put
Hmm.
away. We could afford $2. We practically do on shit we don't need all the time anyway.
Hmm.
While we wait for Cole Orton's answer, because I know he's dying to respond to us right now on there. Final thoughts. Maybe something you've done. Maybe something you've advised other people to do to get through that has worked. If people are struggling right now, and a lot of people are, and some of them are thinking about the worst case scenarios, as we often talk about on this show, depression can lead to even suicide because you can't make it or you can't provide. What are your thoughts to get through it? We've all probably dealt with it, if not with ourselves, with other people at some point. What's your advice? Starting at the top, Lenny.
Okay, don't give up. Talk to your family and friends as much as possible. Have a network of friends, because some of the friends that you might assume would help you maybe can't or won't, and maybe the trickle down will. So you just keep at it. Don't give up, and just keep at it on letting people know what you actually need, and then be patient, and hopefully you'll wind up getting what you need and getting through it.
And as much as I talk against the trickle down thing or coming back to you or the karma thing, because it has kicked me in the ass, there are times when you desperately need it that it is going to rear its head and say, I'm here for you. Mm-hmm. And those times are worth it. So don't give up trying to put it into the world that you want to get back.
Yeah, but put it in the world, because nobody knows what you need unless you express it.
Yeah. What about you, Bill?
Right. One thing I would say, swallow your pride, because pride gets in the way of a lot of things. It can get in the way of success and failure. It could determine that. Swallow your pride. If you need help, be honest with yourself. Hey, I need help. I can't do this by myself. It's not going to work for me. And another thing is when it comes to credit cards, all right? Yeah, my wife always thought, well, if we make the minimum payment, and then keep spending, that minimum payment keeps going up. Because
Right.
I consider credit cards legalized loan sharking. Okay,
Oh, it is,
that's
100%.
the way I do.
It's a
All
great
right.
way to put it, too.
It's all right as long as you can make that minimum payment. But what happens when you reach to the point where you can't? So you have to draw a line somewhere. You have to decide, what can I do? Can I climb this mountain, or should I stay right here at this level for a while until something changes?
That's
It's easy, to say, but hard to do.
It's good advice. I want to reiterate on the credit card thing or any kind of bills you have. Minimum payments are the worst thing you can possibly make.
Yeah. Pay it off monthly if you can.
You will not
or don't use it.
ever be out of debt making minimum payments on there. One of the best things, if you are doing, especially with like car payments and stuff, people don't realize often you can do it. It's not enough to pay extra onto it. With cars, there's usually an option to pay additional principal. That's what you want to pay extra onto.
And
if
a
you
home.
just pay an
your
extra
your
payment,
house too,
yeah, that's any kind of
Yeah.
because that lowers your interest in the long haul.
Yes, if you have a collateral loan for any reason, that's what you do. Because if you just make a bigger payment and think you're helping your loan, you're paying towards your next month, but you're not helping the actual cost of the loan at all. But even $5 to $10 a month can lower by a year on a car. Believe it or not, it is that easy. And with a house, an extra $50, if you can do it a month, you can take 10 years off of that mortgage if you pay it on principal. And same with always make a little extra when it comes to credit cards, though. That is one of the most important things to do. We got an answer for Cole Orton before we go from the final advice from Jan and Ashley. Yes, my dad was upper middle class back in the 80s, 90s. He ran multiple businesses. Worked a $100K yearly job, nice, had multiple houses, bringing in rent, took great pride in supporting himself and his wife, but the recession and credit crunch came, wiped everything out. Dinner was a sharing container of chow mein and crackers between 4 people and a dog for a long time. Even in that situation, we never accepted help from charity or the state charities because we had pride, and I was raised to be the same. And his follow-up onto that is, I guess I was raised to be a man. Men were supposed to be the breadwinner, to support himself and provide for others. To accept help will be pretty much to make you less of a man. And I asked you because I kind of had a feeling that's why you were asking some of these questions. A lot of times when we go through the experience, we look for others who have, and we want to know how they relate it. And I actually totally relate to your answer 100%. And there is still that aspect, and Bill probably has this too, because we talked about it on a previous show, of being the man, of being the breadwinner. It's your responsibility to take care of it. But we all have different views, and it's not wrong. Just like my pride keeps me from doing certain things, it's not wrong. But you got to look at how it affects everybody else as well. That sometimes by swallowing your pride, you're helping more than yourself. Because also, the thing I fail to look at sometimes, Lindy likes to throw in my face, by getting help from someone else, I put myself back into a situation where I can further help other people. So more than swallowing the pride, I'm providing for many other people by doing so. And it's hard for me to realize that in the moment, but it's true. And I mean, Cole Orton, I hope you said is back in the 80s, 90s, and he was doing good, and then everything came crashing down. And I hope everything's gonna, everything is back to where it should be. Because if you keep pushing, if you don't give up, there is success around the corner. There is, and even if it's not full success, the road is there. There's a path. There's somewhere to go. Giving up is the only way you're going to fail. Jan, back to your thoughts and advice as we finish our round.
If it's offered, take it. Simple. Pride, no pride. Because when you take it, that means there's something that you don't have to spend money on because you've got this now. So you can save the money. Okay? If you've got kids, if you're single, it don't matter. You got to eat. You got to survive. You got to pay your bills. If somebody wants to offer you, who knows, have to pay your bill, I'll give you half of it. You come up with the other half. Somebody else offers the other half. Okay? Take it. No strings attached. Fine, I'll take it. That way okay, this bill's gone. Now I can start working on this. Yeah, if you got to swallow your pride sometimes. It's the only way to do it.
To follow up with Cole Orton, he said, I can see why pride is a sin, and it's definitely for a good reason. And you're right, but pride gets a bad rap sometimes. Having pride is not necessarily a bad thing. Having pride that is going to hurt others is a bad thing. That is going to affect other people. I do believe you should be proud of certain things, and that is a portion of pride too. And you should look at yourself as being amazing, Cole Orton, because based on just what you've asked and the way you think, I find you to be a pretty fascinating and amazing person, honestly. I love the way you converse. But pride in asking for help, I think the biggest reason, I don't think it's true pride. I think it's that we don't want to put other people in that situation, and we feel if we're taking away from them, we're causing harm to someone else. And that is neither a bad thing nor a good thing, honestly, because we need the help. So what are your thoughts on that? Anybody?
I don't know. I mean, pride. I don't know. I think it's for a whole nother show, to be quite frank, honest.
It's going to be now.
It's something. Yeah. I think society in a whole has changed so much that the man's role used to be to provide for a family. Now everybody works, and I think it really has kind of, well, before COVID, and I think this should be a whole nother show because I really think that the whole role for a man and a woman, and I know as people, I'm going to get smacked by women libbers and everything else, but
Hold together.
yeah, a woman's place isn't exactly in the home, but it really has messed everything up by taking her out of the home and caring for the children, and now working, and both parents are working, and the kids are being, daycared or babysitter, and the family unit has gone kapooey. A long time ago, you had a family unit. The man worked, the woman stayed home and took care of the house stuff, which was a job in itself, and the kids had a family structure, and there was probably less crime, less everything else, because they were raised by the people that loved them the most. So that whole pride thing, I have a feeling Cole Horton came from a family of that sort where the dad worked, the mom stayed home, and everything else. And I love that. And I wish that our society would go back to that more, but we can't because no one can afford a house unless everybody works.
That's the other thing with the finances is our economy, no matter how good people say it's getting or not getting, no matter what you believe, and it's around the world, it's out of control because you have to work so hard to afford these things. We see things a better economy because it's not the absolute worst terrible it could be, but it's still really, really bad. Colorado says absolutely 100% correct. You have nailed it down to a T, Lenny. Very nicely said. Very nicely. So going over to Ashley, advice, and you work with a lot of people, so I'm sure you're going to have some good words about this.
No pressure or anything now after
Nope,
an
not at
intro
all.
like that.
I could disappear. I could disappear, and you could take over the show again.
Oh no, that's okay. No, we'll keep you. We'll keep you. You're okay here.
Okay.
Um, yeah, I mean, things that worked for me in the past, definitely live under your means. That way you can get ahead. There were times where I was drowning. I did like what Lenny did. Like, okay, I don't need this. I don't need this plan. I mean, we don't need all these cable packages. We're not watching this. Like, let's drop that. Like, let's go to the bare minimum on everything. And there's nothing wrong with that. And then keep it because we don't need all this extra stuff. And other advice, there are so many programs and things. If you're able to just Google what you are looking for, Google bill assistance, Macomb County, Oakland County, whatever. There are so many different things. You just have to look. And I didn't know any of that until recently. But there is programs at churches and different things like that in the government too with all this COVID assistance. There's a lot out there.
Can I pause you for 1 second? I do have a question for Cole Orton because you're talking about these programs. Do they have these kind of programs? Because I believe you are from the UK. Do they have these kind of programs over there? I'm just curious. Go ahead, continue, Ashley.
No, that's super interesting. No, thank you for asking that too, because I want to know.
I was like,
But yeah, and definitely take the help when it's offered. People don't offer help if they wouldn't want to give it. No one's going to give you help if they can't afford or don't want to. People who don't want to help won't.
I think that
People
that is
want to
misspoken
help.
because I will give the help when I can't afford to, and unfortunately, that works to my detriment. Because when I'm taking from other people, I'm thinking the way I am, that they cannot afford to do this. Because I will give the last thing I have, and I will sacrifice payments and bills or things I need to help someone else. And it hurts me, and it's my detriment when somebody offers to help me because I immediately flash back that that is why they're doing it. They're not able to. But you're right. Take a look at their situation, too. If you're one of those people, I think is what makes it harder to accept it. I mean, I don't honestly know, Lenny, if it came down to it, if you would be able to ask people for help.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it, but you've not been really in that situation.
I haven't been in that situation, but I think if I were, I would. I don't know, maybe. But I will say this, you just simply, you buy a little purse and you put less in it and you're just as happy. Just take your stuff, have a garage sale, get rid of things, you get a little money here, whatever it takes. Go through all of your stuff, see what you truly need and what you don't, if you can. There are people that have nothing, and those are the people that really need the help, But go through your stuff and minimize. And like she said, live under your means, and you'll be surprised at just how happy you actually are because you're working at something,
Yeah. Very well said. All of our panelists gave great suggestions for going through this stuff. Living below your means is definitely something to do. I know a lot of people are hearing that statement, though, and they're saying, I already am, and I can't afford it. Mm-hmm. And that's the hardest thing. But really, you're not. Some of the examples that Ashley pointed out were very, very important to take a hold of. People say cable. Well, cable is a great thing because we need the internet. And the companies offer these great deals to get cable TV, too. With the internet, you save so much money getting the package. But saving money when a company says it is a lie. Because saving money requires you spending more money. And that's how they trick you. We see the word save, and it is a lie. It is to cost you more money. Cancel cable altogether because almost everybody out there is paying for some sort of streaming service. Keep that $10, $15 streaming service, cancel everything, get the flat internet. If you add it up, you're saving a lot more than with that package. And you don't have equipment fees, and you don't have equipment rental fees, and all this other stuff's tacked onto your bill. I don't think anybody for a phone or cable company anywhere has signed up for a package and ended up paying that amount. It always is way higher no matter what you do. Before I continue this final thing, Cole Orton says that's right. They have many different welfare and benefit programs in the UK that people can get, social housing, things like that. Though the monetary help is quite low and requires you to jump through a lot of hoops to get and maintain. But there are those help programs out there. And I actually was always wondering that if they had it overseas, if they had the same situation. It's good to know there are situations out there. Some, I'm sure between countries, some are better, some are worse, depending on where you are. But it's nice to know there's something we can turn to. The other thing is, as you're struggling, you are putting all these different things forward that you need to buy, that you need to get, that you need to have, and you don't. Suffering for a year or 2 years is going to be awful. You're going to feel depressed. You're going to feel terrible. Every once in a while, do what I suggested. Do something for you once in a while, maybe once in that year or something. Keep yourself motivated. But after the end of that 2 years, your finances will improve because you will be teaching yourself without knowing it how to budget. And you'll also be teaching yourself that you can live without things that right now you don't know you can because you always have them. If you do nothing, if you do not try to balance this out and you do not suffer a little bit, you're going to be suffering a lot longer because you're never going to improve your situation. Credit cards are bad news. If you get one, get a credit card. Always keep that balance below 30% and always pay it off the best you can at the end of the month. Never forget those payments. Never go above 30%. It doesn't help you. Keep an eye on your wallet. No matter what, we're all there for each other. As human beings, we are, I don't know who that was. As human beings, we're all there for each other. We do want to help each other. We do want to make the world a better place. It's one of the most important things we can do. As much as I talked about my pride not allowing me to ask, it was really hard to swallow my pride, but it was the right thing to do. And it was worth it. And you can't let that hold you back. Cole Orton said that pride was a sin, and in that sense it kind of is, but sometimes it's a sin against yourself. And it's hurting you. So don't be afraid, because you would do it for others. And when you do things for a lot of other people, you often forget that those people get the same satisfaction doing for you. And they would like to help you as well. Don't be afraid to ask them for help. You can get through anything no matter how hard it is. Never, if you see yourself going down a dark path, definitely turn to somebody else. Because they can help you. We love you, they love you, and everybody out there, if you just give them a chance, will show you how much they care. I am Keith Litton for Ear, Shoulder, Voice. Today's show has been about living week to week, the financial struggle, which is definitely something that many of us have dealt with, will deal with throughout our lives, and probably will deal with it again in the future. So I hope we learned something from this. I hope you'll be able to make things a little bit better, and we'll all be better off after that. Coming up on our next topic is, well, our next show actually, of course, is our open forum show every Sunday. That's right. It's all about you, even though sometimes it's all about us because we just talk about what we talk about. But we want to hear your problems. We want to hear your discussions on the open forum. Anything on your mind, we're going to discuss it because that's what we do. That's what we like to do. We're here for you, and you are here for us just as much. Our next topic is coming up next Wednesday is Battling the Bottle, a Fight with Alcoholism. That is on April 21st on Wednesday. So be here for that. It starts at 7 o'clock. I don't even have to explain what that show's about. I think you all know. So we'll be talking with people who have dealt with that situation, are currently dealing with that situation, or have loved ones that have been in that situation. That'll be a very deep and important show I think people will have to see. Don't forget to like, share, follow, and subscribe to Ear, Shoulder, Voice on YouTube, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. We are on all those, and you can live chat during the show anytime you want to, which is absolutely awesome. But not only can you live chat during these wonderful shows, but you can chat with us any fucking time you want to. If things aren't going well, if you have a problem, if you're depressed, or you just need to get something off your chest, we are called Ear, Shoulder, Voice for a reason. An ear to listen, a shoulder to cry on, and a voice so you can be heard. All right, that is what we are here for. So anytime, if you go to our Facebook Messenger on our Facebook page, you can chat to us through there. If you go to our website, you can chat through there and do it anonymously, and we will talk to you. So just get it off your chest. Have somebody there. You'd be surprised what a difference that can make in somebody's life. We've helped a lot of people, and we look forward to helping a lot more on there. Lenny, glad to have you back as always, because you are the fucking phenomenal shit. You are. We love you, Lenny. You're back on here. You help keep this show rolling every time. Love your personality. Love everything about you. And look forward to many more shows. Thank you for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Bill, it was nice to have you on the show. You are all... what was that? I don't know. Something's breathing heavy. You are always welcome on here, Bill. It was a weird sound for a minute. You're always welcome on here. I love your point of view, as I always say on there. I love your directness. It's very appreciated. Thank you again for being here tonight.
Thank you.
You are welcome. Jan, you sweet little old lady. You are so amazing. You are, with everything you've always been through, I just love your passion. I love that you reflect back to it. And I really love your pride and no shame attitude in a lot of things. I know there are some things in your past that you feel differently about, but you're not afraid to confront them. And that is a very well-respected thing that a lot of people, I wish, could do more often. So thank you again for being here.
Thank you.
Ashley, there's absolutely nobody on here that fit more into this topic than you. And not only just because you struggled, but because you work in that situation and you see more probably than any of us. Mm-hmm. So what you said, the advice you gave, getting through it and telling people to go get help, that is what people need to hear sometimes, because people are afraid out there. They don't know where to turn. They don't know where to look. And people like you are out there saying, hey, come to us. So
please,
I really
please.
Yes. Absolutely, because they're out there. And even if you don't go, I think one of the mistakes that people make as far as your line of work is they don't go through people like you. They often go through the services themselves. Whereas people like you have the ins and outs to get through things, like if Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints just wanted to bring it up, you go through them, and, well, you might as well just toss a mail in the trash. You go through somebody who knows how to get the ins and outs, and they will help you get through everything. And Ashley, that's what you do. I appreciate that, and I appreciate everything you had to give us on this topic. Thank you.
Thanks, Keith.
Oh, absolutely happy to. All right, you all have a great night. We will see you coming up this Sunday's Open Forum and next Wednesday for our next topic show, The Battle with the Bottle. I am Keith Liffen for Ear, Shoulder, Voice. You all have a great night. Bye.
Good night.
Hey guys, Keith Liffen here for Ear, Shoulder, Voice. While you're here, why don't you like, share, subscribe, and follow so you can be notified of all our new broadcasts that we're bringing to you live every week and live chat during the show. You can also head on over to www.earshouldervoice.com, find out more information, suggest topics you'd like to see our panel discuss, and even apply to be a guest panelist yourself. Again, we lost Jan and Bill. They're old. They got a bedtime. That's all. They just left like it's past my bedtime. Oh, God, that was a good show. I was struggling. Financial struggles is so hard to talk about because everybody deals with them really to a point at some point.
Oh, for sure. Everyone wants to make more money or be at a different place. Doesn't matter if you make $10 an hour, 20, 30, 40. Everyone wants something better.
Yeah. And that... Ooh, that was bad. Okay, we're bad. I need a drink. Hold on. Okay.
Well,
I didn't even hit. I thought we were going to actually hit the minimum wage thing because I thought that was going to be part of it too. But we didn't really get a chance to.
Yeah.
I know it's a little political issue, but it is something that people deserve to talk about and hear about. We did it on one of our open forums for a while. So
back in, what was it, 2008? When was it when the housing market crashed?
2008.
Yeah.
2008. Yeah. So my business deals with a lot of people that have a lot of money, and it's a very, expensive sport. So when that happened, there were a whole bunch of my customers that it really hit hard, and a lot of them wound up, losing their house, their boats and cars, and all the luxury things went bye-bye, so I saw it hit not the people that, struggle day in, day out to put food on the table. You're seeing it hit these people that they didn't know what to do because they've never been in that predicament before.
Well, like I'm from Hazel Park, Ferndale area in Michigan here. We're a bunch of poor ass motherfuckers down there. And I started working over at the Kit Kat, which is in Macomb Township, and everybody out there when I started, rich as all hell. Like it was a very high up neighborhood. Everybody had lots of money. When that crash hit, so many of my friends from that bar, they lost their house, they lost everything. And my job took a hit because I rely on tips and stuff, and they just literally could not afford to give them anymore. And it hurt, but I mean, everybody lost. I lost my house, and I was at that time living in Warren. I had a ghetto house. It was $130,000, but I lost that because it went down to $6,000 value. Stupid.
Isn't that crazy?
Oh my God.
I even tried to save up $6,000 so it could foreclose and I could buy it.
So where did all those homes go? Just back into the...
They got abandoned. The banks got them, and eventually they resold them.
Right.
Yeah, the banks profited. Well, not really, because they lost all that money from the $100,000 mortgage to the $6,000 mortgage. So they
but they profited in the long run because a lot of these were half-paid mortgages.
Yes,
so they got to keep that and resell at full value. So banks get their money. I mean, at 10 years, banks have made their money on the home.
And it was just
mortgage.
And it was just because they overpriced them, or they what actually happened there? How did it actually happen? How did the crash actually happen? Too many loans out there for...
Well, one of the things they were doing, was that's why the restrictions on lendings changed so much. But that was one of the things that was happening was they were just giving it out. They were just giving loans to everybody, trying to make millions of dollars, and people they couldn't pay them. People getting over their heads, and they allowed different. They were able to finagle the system of how you made money. I don't know. You're probably familiar with an 80-20 loan, which were really big around those times. Which was you basically got a loan for 20% of the value as to put down on the house, and the 80% of that was the loan from the mortgage. So you had two mortgages every month combined into one, but it was called an 80-20 loan. So people would do that with no money down. So they had these houses, they made no money, and that was part of it too. There was a lot of reasons, and just, government sucked.
Right.
There's that too. There was a lot there too.
Huh.
Restrictions and regulations. But hey, we're getting in a better world now. No matter what anybody says, life is improving. Life is getting better. We are all going to be happy. We're all going to be smiling, and we're all going to make it.
Except for that dog that has to go to the bathroom that's whining.
That's not mine this time.
That one's mine.